you can make $10,000 just getting a piece of paper, again, from one person to another. And I'm like, okay, maybe this might be it. Let me take it a try. I don't have nothing to lose right now. So I stopped doing all the bad things, cut ties with the people I used to hang out with.
Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the Gentle Art of Crushing It show, where we focus on learning and sharing with our listeners all there is to know about how to create success in our lives. This show stands on the shoulders of giants. Our mission is to empower and inspire our listeners to create the life of their dreams whilst having a blast in the process. Let's celebrate life together. Welcome to the show.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Gentle Art of Crushing It podcast. My name is Nathan Murith with Undor Properties, and I'm one of 6 hosts who bring you conversations 3 times a week on a variety of topics around business, real estate, and personal motivation. Our goal with this podcast is to help you succeed in whatever target you're aiming at. We're all committed to finding the best and the brightest people who aren't just talking about doing big things, but are actually taking the steps to achieve their dreams and wanting to help others along the way. And speaking of dreams, today's guest, Yunis Abdalla, is such an incredible individual. I don't even have a long-winded introduction to introduce Yunis. He is potentially the most inspirational and incredible story I have ever heard about success mindset. And with that, let's hop into the conversation. Yunis, welcome. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. Yourself?
Doing very well. Doing absolutely awesome, actually. I'm super excited to hear about your story and have this awesome conversation with you. So why don't we just kick it off? Who's Yunis? Tell us about yourself, your background, how you found success, and maybe tell us something interesting that most people don't know about you.
My name is Yunis Abdalla. I am from Kenya. I came to the United States in 2003. So I was around 2 years old when I first got here. My family, I have 8 siblings, and I want to say, 6 boys and 2 girls. And it's a big family. Growing up, now it's small since everybody went away and got married or had kids. But so basically, growing up, I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, my whole life, and I was going to a pretty nice elementary school from, I want to say, first grade to 5th grade. And then 6th grade, my dad decided to take us from regular public school to a private school. And during that time, I didn't want to leave because, I went to my public school for the first, 5 years. So I'm like, let me finish it off with my 6th year and then go to high school, well, middle school. And he didn't like that idea. So he just decided to take us out and take us to private school. We did that for a year. And then once that year ended, they said that we needed to go back to public schools. And at that time, we lived in not the very best neighborhood. So we grew up with Section 8. And Section 8, a lot of people don't accept Section 8. Now that I know I'm in the field of real estate, but most people don't accept Section 8. And the places that do accept it are usually not the best areas. So we were in a area that it had violence, but it was really rare, but it was there. So I went to middle school in that area, and I want to say I didn't even finish, maybe 5 months into school, I got expelled from that school. And the reason for that is because I grew up, so the school was all, let's say, African-American school. So, I'm from Africa, and we live different lives. So I had to, I want to say, fit in, or really get into that habitat of how they're living and stuff like that. So so one thing led to another. I started hanging around with the wrong crowd at that time, and I ended up getting expelled from, I want to say, 7th grade. Then went to an alternative school right after, and from there I still was hanging around with the wrong side of people, and then went to another school. Then I got expelled from there also for fights. So I want to say in total, just in that time of growing up, I probably got expelled maybe 3 to 4 times, and then doing online school. And then, so I want to say in 2017, I was probably in 9th or 10th grade. After I got expelled, I had a situation where I had a family relative of mine attack me and stab me over like 25 times. And that that you wouldn't. I didn't know how to go about it. It's a family member that I was hanging around with. Really, just someone I was very close to. Someone I used to consider like a friend, brother that I would do anything for. So to me, it was surprising. It's like, what did I do?
Before we jump into the show, we wanted to let you know that this episode is brought to you by everyreitool.com. Every REI Tool is the most comprehensive online catalog of resources for real estate investors and professionals. Whether you are looking for the best deal analyzer, the most loved syndication platform, fix and flip rehab calculators, dialers, lead generation solutions, rent collectors, or the next real estate book to read, every REI Tool has it all. Quickly and easily find the best software, apps, services, books, podcasts, and courses to help accelerate and grow your real estate business by heading over to everyreitool.com. And don't forget to sign up to get exclusive product reviews, promos, and discount codes. everyreitool.com. Now, on to the show.
So what happened? Is there anything you could share? I mean, to talk about this, how do you go from like friend/family member to stabbing someone 25 or 7, whatever the number is, times?
So the story behind that is usually like it's basically one day I was helping him out with I had a pair of shoes. He needed it. I gave it to him. So this is like leading to it. So a week, I want to say, before, he needed some shoes. I gave it to him, and he ended up selling the shoes that I gave him, and I gave it to him to borrow. So it was like a weird, like, why would you sell that? But in that time, I just knew what was going on. But I met him at the mosque. So I'm a Muslim too. So at the mosque, we were praying, and then he came there that day, which was weird because he's rarely even there. But my dad took us there all the time to learn and stuff. So it's like an educational purpose. So he came there one day, and he had one of my belts. So I was like, hey, when am I going to get my belt back? And he was like, I'll give it to you later. I might need you to come pick me up. Me, I'm not thinking nothing of it because we've hung around multiple times. You know, I drove him around a couple times. I've slept at his house. He slept at my house. So it was just like a family, like we're blood. So I ended up picking him up. So me and my father got into it that day specifically, and we got into like a little altercation. And I left that time because I was like, all right, I'm just gonna go to my girlfriend's house. She lived, well, I'm gonna say like 45 minutes away from St. Louis. It's called a city called Wright City in St. Louis County. So I ended up, I wanted to go to her, but he asked me, can you please take me somewhere to my girlfriend's house? So I'm like, I can't. I just got into my parents. I'm trying to head over to my girlfriend's house. I can't really drop you off. You might need to ask someone else. He's like, please, please, I beg of you. So I'm like, okay. So I decided to go pick him up. So I was headed there. He was talking to a gentleman outside while I got there. And then by the time he saw me, he's like, all right, give me a second. I'll be right back. He went inside the house, came back, got into the car, and then we're off. So usually I put my GPS on to go to his girlfriend's house. But in this time, he's like, don't use your GPS. I'll tell you which way to go. So I'm like, all right. Once again, I'm not seeing anything because, you know, it's someone that I grew up with. So I'm driving. As I'm driving him, he's like, hey, go this direction, go this direction. We end up going on this like forest area. There's like a hill, like a passage through it. He's like, hey, can you stop here real quick? I'm trying to get, I was walking one day back home and I threw a bag full of my things in this wooded area. So I'm like, okay, maybe he's running away from the cops. I don't know exactly what was happening, but why not? So I ended up getting out the car with him, but I saw he kept following me behind me while we were looking for things. So I didn't know too much of it, but there's these little plants that get on top of your skin, your clothes. So I'm like, I'm going to my girlfriend's side. I don't want to look dirty. So let me just get out of here and go back in the car. And I told him, you can look for it. He's like, all right, just drive a little bit further. I might have left it somewhere else. And I'll just, and then help me through there. So I'm like, all right, that's fine. So I pulled up a little bit and I got out the car again. And as soon as I got out the car this time, as I'm looking down, he just comes behind me with a towel in my mouth and then a knife on my back. And now it's like, what's going on? Like everything is just, I don't know what's going on. So I ended up flipping him over and then we both tossed around. It was like a hill going down. So there's like a little lake down there and everything. So as soon as we go down there, he's looking at me and like, I don't know if you watched Tarzan before. I use this example because at that time, but there's a scene in Tarzan where he's attacking the lion or the tiger and he has his knife with him. And they're like going in circles or whatever. So that's literally what it was. He was attacking me. I'm looking confused and just don't know what's going on. Like, what did I do? You know? Like I'm doing something nice for you. I was just taking you to girlfriend's house. Like I don't think we had any issues, but apparently we do. So he's coming to attack me, and I probably got stabbed over 5, 7 times now at the, like while we're attacking. He's like getting on top of me. He's an older gentleman. I want to say he was like 3, 4 years older than me at the time. So I was 16. He's probably 18, 19 years old. And while he was stabbed, kept stabbing me. I had blood coughing from my heart, like right on my chest, and he at that moment I'm like, why? He's like, he's not trying to answer the question, and then he's looking for my keys for the car. He's looking for my wallet, my phone. He takes my phone. He starts texting my girlfriend and letting her know like, hey, I can't make it. I'm going to do something for my mom. This and that. Like he knew my phone password. That's how close we were. So we could do things like that. So he ended up hitting my head. He grabbed a rock at some point and started hitting my head on it, trying to knocked me unconscious, kicking me. His girlfriend ends up calling her and asking her to come pick him up. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, this is not the way I expected my life to end right now. And if I died right here at the moment where I'm located, it's probably gonna take a long time for someone to find me. Like my whole body would have decayed already. Nowhere anyone walks. So he ends up leaving at some point. I guess his girlfriend comes to pick him up, and I'm there thinking like, I need to get up. I need to use all my strength to get on top of the road, and at least someone can find me there dead, and then they can tell my mom so she can have closure, or my parents. So I tried running up, and basically as soon as I tried running up, I end up falling down. I've lost a lot of blood at this time. I have blood everywhere. And so I'm rushing up again. I'm like, I got to do this. I got to do this. And then I made my way up, fell on the floor. My car was still there and it was unlocked. So I just crawled into my car and waited for a moment. And then a car came by, drove past, and I thought it was him, but I didn't know who it was. So it's like I couldn't take that risk of not getting out, asking for help, not know who it was. So I'm like, all right, let me just get out. Worst case scenario, I'm already dead, so it doesn't really matter. Like what more can he do right now? So even if he throws my body somewhere or whatever happens, everything is done already. So I ended up getting out the car, crawled. I slammed on that I don't remember if it was a gentleman or a lady in the car. I was passing in and out at the time just from so much blood, and I landed on her hood of the car, and then I guess from that point, I didn't say anything. I'm like, help, help. And then I just got back in my car again. I just said, forget it. And just got back in my car and closed it. And then next thing I know, I close my eyes, wake up. I see a flashlight in my window. And then I think it was a police officer at that time. And then I passed out again. Then I see them opening the door, firefighters trying to, drag my body, and the ambulance trying to drag my body into the bed and then get me on the ambulance. And then I'm passing in and out. So from there, I was gone. The only thing I remember from that point is when I got into the hospital, they're cutting my clothes off, and then I was just continuing to pass out. My mom, on the other hand, says that they got the call, I'm going to say, while I was headed to the hospital. So where I was located was like North County in St. Louis, and the hospital we have is Central West End area. It's called Barnes Jewish. So my mom, she lives in South City, so the police ended up actually getting to her house and knocking on her door. I guess they found my ID in the back of the trunk, in my bag. They ended up going to the house and letting her like, hey, your son is very injured. You need to go to the hospital. So she ended up actually beating me to the hospital. So she actually saw me getting out the ambulance. And for her, she said she was like, when she saw my body, she thought I was dead at that moment. She didn't know what to do. Like she thought she lost her son. So next morning I woke up. I'm confused. I'm like, how am I here right now? What's going on? My mom is on my side crying and like just joyful to see her son alive, but she's looking like, what happened? Who did this? Like, who would do this to you? And I'm like, it's my uncle. Like, he's the one that did this. And he's been like, they've been asking him like, hey, do you know where Yunis is at? Because he was someone I was hanging around with all the time. So he kept saying, no, I don't know where he's at. I haven't talked to him in a minute, this and that. So making excuses. Detective ends up coming. I let the detective know like exactly what's going on because someone that I really trusted just betrayed me. So it's like, it was very hard at that time. So after being in the hospital, I want to say for 2 weeks, I couldn't go back home because this was a family situation. They said I had to go in foster care. Now, ended up in going to foster care. I want to say they told me that I didn't know too much about it, but they're like, hey, you need to go to foster care. We don't know how long it's going to be, but you're just going to have to go there. I wanted to go to my girlfriend's house. Honestly, I was like, she lives far away. If he's ever after me again, he doesn't know where she lives, and I don't know anything about that, but they're like, we got to get you in foster care. So a family comes there, I want to say, to pick me up, and they're a strange family. So I thought foster care was, I want to say that is the movie's name's Angie, I believe, or I can't remember the
It
movie's
could be.
name, but I thought
it doesn't ring a bell, but
I thought it was just gonna be a lot of kids in one home. They're not. They're just expecting monthly government assistance to really take care of the kids and all these things. So it's just like from movies that I've watched. That's what I'm thinking foster care is. So in my whole perception in that happening, I'm already thinking, all right, I might be seeing people I don't know. It's gonna be new to me. This whole situation is just something I've never been through, never heard of. So let's see what goes on. They end up taking me to their house. We got there. They give me a room. They give me clothes. They're like, do you want to take a shower? Do you want something to eat? Very friendly people. And now it's like I'm trusting people that I'm having a real trust issue at this moment because of what just happened. So it's like, so I can't really trust anybody. But they're being very patient with me. And they're like, do you want anything? Do you want to watch Netflix? And they're just being very nice.
Just very kind, yeah.
Days go by, like they're like, do you want to get a haircut? I'm like, yeah, why not? So his cousin ends up coming and give me a haircut, and he cuts my hair, and then there's like a scab on my hair. So right now, there's like a bald spot in the back of my head because when he was hitting me on the rock, I had my hand like this, but he ended up damaging some of the nerves in my back of my head. So the doctors never knew that because I had hair at the time. So because of that, he's like, all right, I don't think this is going to go back. So I'm like, wow. But it's that thing that marked, the scar that I have remember exactly what I went through and, just to tell other people about it. But after that, I was in foster care, I want to say for 9 months in there.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't let me go back home.
And at this time you said you were about 17?
16.
Is that right? 16?
16. Yeah. 16. Yeah, 16. So it took, I want to say 2 to 3 weeks for them to arrest him. He actually stole his sister's brother's car and then got caught with that, still in that car, because they called and said that it was missing. So he ended up getting arrested. Then they wanted to go to court and all these other things. So fast forward, I want to say after I got out of foster care, I went back home, and my foster mom, she was making, I want to say 6 figures a year at that time, but I didn't know exactly what she was doing. I think she was working for like Enterprise. And I didn't see a lot of successful African-American people because of where I was just coming from. Like all I saw was teachers but they were making like $50K a year. So to me, they weren't really successful. They weren't really making nothing. So to see her actually making money and living the life she was with owning her home and all this, it was very new to me. Growing up, I didn't have a lot of friends. My dad just didn't trust any of that. I see why, because what family could do to you. But just from that, I didn't know. So I ended up going back home, and let me take that back. So before I ended up going back home, I was doing online school while I was with her for the 9 months. And they told me that it's your pace. So as fast as you go, you can probably graduate, from school very early. So I took that as a challenge. I'm like, so I can graduate at the age of 16, 17. That's what you're really saying? So I'm like, all right. So I took that challenge, and then I ended up graduating literally at the age of 17. Well, I was turning 17. So yeah, I was turning 17 because I graduated in May. My birthday was in June. So I graduated around 16, turning 17 range from high school. So I was like, it was really nice to see that accomplishment, being so young, graduating. So, but I didn't know what I was going to do after that. Everything I was doing was really online. They gave me a diploma and everything, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I thought about becoming a police officer, a detective. That's really the place I was trying to go to, and EMT. So I ended up getting out of there and then actually attending St. Louis Community College to become an EMT. I finished that. I want to say I did it, but I did it but they're paying $13 an hour, where at Penn Express is paying the same amount. So I'm like, I'm saving somebody's life. So why am I getting paid the same amount as someone working at Penn Express and they're just taking care of food? So it didn't really make no sense. So I was like, all right, maybe this is not the field for me, and it doesn't seem like it's gonna give me what I want in life, getting paid that amount. And if you wanted to be a paramedic, you had to do firefighter also. So it just didn't really make sense. So I want to say a year later, I ended up taking the trash out at my mom's. We had an inspection coming for Section 8. No, well, yeah, Section 8 coming to an inspection. I went to clean the house, so I woke up early in the morning, cleaning the house. I ended up taking out the trash. By the time taking out the trash, there's shooting going on, and then I end up getting hit with a
You're
bullet.
kidding.
Yes.
You're
So like I ended
kidding.
up falling behind the back door in the back, and my brother was in the kitchen at that time making cereal. So he just hears gunshots and then sees me coming through the door, and he's confused and screaming. My mom hears the gunshots, comes downstairs, and sees me on the floor bleeding again. So it's like, what's going on? So they called ambulance, the 911 to come pick me up. So went to the hospital. It was just only one gunshot to the shoulder. It passed through, so it didn't
It's
really
still one too
bleed.
many.
Yeah, but I was very thankful, but I'm like, why does these things keep happening to me? Like these life death situations. So after that, I was doing, I want to say I was working at Penn Express at the time when I got shot. And Penn Express basically told me they wanted me to come back after I just got shot. They were like, "Hey, when are you able to come back?" So I'm like, "Really? Like after I just got shot, you guys don't care about my health. You guys are just asking to see when I can come back." So I ended up quitting there and then going to valet. And I used to work at the Hyatt Regency, and at that time I was getting paid like $7 an hour. And getting paid $7 an hour, I used to go to work early. I was very dedicated. I didn't really have a long. The longest job I had was that until I got into real estate. But I want to say I worked there for 6 months, and during that time, I basically came to work early, left late. So I'd get in probably, let's say, 2:30 when my shift started at 3 or 2:40, and then like help the other people that were working, the other employees, and then at the end of the night, I'd be the last to leave to make sure every car is parked, everything is good, everything's locked up and secure. And then there was a position that opened up at that time for a manager. And I thought I was going to get it. Even though those other people were there before me, they weren't putting as much work as I was. And the manager saw that, but he's like, because they've been here longer, I have to give it to them. So at that point, it was like, all right, that's fine. I understand that they've been here a little longer. And if you made me manager, they would have felt some type of way, or they may even quit. So I kept doing what I had to do. And then one day he came up to me. He's like, "Hey, we want to give you a raise." So in my head, I'm thinking, this is the first time I ever got a raise. How much is it going to be? And then he ends up saying it's 25 cents. I'm like, what? From like $7 that I'm already making, you're saying that I'm going to get 25 cents? Then I was like, all right, they're really playing with me. And this is not exactly what I'm looking for. So at that same time, through that depression stage after getting shot and all that things going on, I was smoking. So not well marijuana, to be honest. And then there was a video I watched on Instagram one day, just scrolling down, and it said like, "Hey, if you," because I knew where I wanted my life to be. I just didn't know what route to take or what to do, and I just need some guidance. So for some reason, God just put me into. He just brought that video across me, and then literally this guy was walking across a bridge, and he basically said, "Hey, if you want to become wealthy or want financial freedom, you have to start smoke. You have to stop smoking. You have to stop partying, and you have to change the people you're around." Now I started thinking about that. I'm like, okay, I don't hang around with the best people because they're not anywhere where I want to be. They're all like where I'm at or less than me, and they're all doing the same thing. So it's like I understood that the circle you're around is where you're gonna be. So if you hang out with wealthy people, you become wealthy. If you hang around with bums, you're gonna become a bum. So after hearing that, I was like, all right, maybe I need to start changing my life around. So I ended up watching this video of another guy. His name's Ask Flip Man, and he was talking about wholesaling real estate on TikTok. So I started watching a couple more of his videos. He's like, you can make 5K without doing anything. You can make $10,000 without just getting a piece of paper, getting from one person to another. And I'm like, okay, maybe this might be it. Let me take it a try. I don't have nothing to lose right now, so why not? So I stopped doing all the bad things and like really cut ties with the people I used to hang out with, and like stayed home and really focused on what wholesaling was and wanted to learn way more about it. So I watched all his videos and actually started taking action right away. I just wanted to know exactly what I was like, some people learn, and try to gain as much knowledge, but never take action.
And what specifically were you doing in terms of taking action? Because that's the one question I typically like to ask. Is oftentimes, to your point, especially when people are getting started, right? It's, let me consume all this content and knowledge because, quote unquote, I have to learn until I'm ready, and then they end up doing that for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years and never do anything. What was it for you? What was that action for you that others can hear and I guess feel inspired from?
So for me, as you can see, like I was always a risk taker. Like I would just do things just to see the outcome of anything. So from watching his videos, at that time, it was like, let me just do it because what he's saying, I'm not going to go through. And that was just always in my mind. Like everyone has a different story. My story is going to be way different than anybody's. So if I just do it, the mistakes I'm going to make, he probably hasn't made. So he can't really answer or tell me about it because his way went totally different. So I was like, all right, let me just do it and just mix, figure it out along the way. And then from there, I have some type of experience, and the other ones might go smoother or they might go worse. I just don't know because every closing was different at all the times anyway. So none of them went smoothly. And, sometimes I had serious mistakes going on. So it's just like, let me just take this action and actually just do it. Like Nike said, right? I basically started taking action by calling. So I was driving around at first because that was a freeway, driving for dollars, and actually just writing down addresses before I went to work. And I'd go home the next day. So I'd wake up early. My shift started at 3. I lived, I want to say, an hour away at that time because I just wanted to get out away from all the negative in St. Louis, especially where my family lived. I just was like, I need to move away. So I moved an hour away to see how that was. It was a quiet area. I never heard gunshots, so that was a win for the year. Uh, so from being there, as soon as I got off work, I went home, and then that morning, as soon as I woke up, I would actually look at the list I created and look online and try to. So we have a St. Louis City property search thing where you can see all the owners of properties in St. Louis City. So I'd search it up, the property owners, and then actually from there, I'd go to truepeoplesearch.com. And that was just like these free things I was just doing myself. No one was really teaching me, but it's like, how can I figure out these owners? But I knew in the past that I heard of someone say, True People Search, you can figure out people's information. It's just on there online for free. It might not be 100% accurate, but most times they are. So I took it as a shot. I looked at it, and I didn't know exactly what to say to these people. But I'm just calling like, hey, I saw your house that was vacant. Are you interested in selling? And most time they said yes. Most time they hang up on me. Most time they curse me out. But it was just like, let me continue doing it. If I call so many people, at least one of them will say yes. So I just wanted to call as many people as I could. So I ended up getting one guy. He said, yeah, I'm looking to sell my house. It wasn't in that best area. It was like in a very bad neighborhood. But he was looking to sell for, I want to say, like 15,000. I'm like, all right, yay, I got a property under contract. Let's see how I can sell this. There was tenants in there. And I couldn't actually sell the property because of the neighborhood it was. So it was a hard time selling it. So I had to go back to him and try to negotiate. But he ended up just saying, nah, I want to get rid of it, but I don't want to get rid of it for that low. So I ended up getting out of contract with him. Ended up calling another gentleman maybe a week later, and he had a property.
And did you, sorry, before you move on, did you lose anything when you had to get out of contract with this first property that you got under contract?
No, I didn't lose anything.
Yeah. Did you know about what was at stake in terms of what you could potentially lose before getting into contract, or was it just like your hat says, just do it and go
Just
go
do it.
and
Just do
okay.
it and go, go, go. Like I didn't know what was gonna happen. I didn't know anything about earnest money or anything. Like I just put things on there, but the contract I used, it was free also. And it just said like put any number on there, like 1%, so $1,000. So that's all I was doing. And then when I moved to the second contract, I found the owner. He had a property, and I think he gave it to me for 15K, and I sold it for 25. So automatically I was making 10K already. But after I got in contract, then I found a buyer because I just posted on Facebook and everything, and found a buyer through there. They came, took a look at it. they came and took a look at it. I kept meeting them there also just to see, because I didn't know exactly if I was supposed to, put a lockbox on there. So I really didn't know, but I kept meeting them there before work or leaving work to meet them. I kept telling my boss, like, hey, I'm going to take my lunch now to go meet these people. And if he said no, it wouldn't matter to me. I was really going to leave because I knew I was making something I was never going to make there anyways. So, but I ended up meeting a gentleman there. A lady, she came out, she took a look at it. She was like, yeah, this is something we're interested in. So we got under contract. Now it's like, all right, I got under contract with the seller. Now I got under contract with the buyer. Now what's next? Now it's finding a title company. Now I don't know what title company to use. So I ended up taking one day just calling all title companies and actually finding out like, hey, do you guys do wholesaling? And they're like, yes. And most of them said no. So they weren't familiar with that. But the one that said yes, I'm like, all right, I want to bring these contracts in. Can we do a double close? They're like, yeah, we could do that. And I gave them the contract. I want to say it took 2 weeks for me to close, but the day we closed and they called me and told me to come pick up my check, I was at work, and I want to say it was probably like an hour into work. They're like, hey, you can come pick up your check. I'm like, say less. All right, let's go. So I left work and like just drove there to pick up the check. I look at the check and it was around, I would say 9,500. I'm like, wow. Usually when people see 9,500 in our community, it's usually tax season, basically, when people are getting their taxes. So it's like you never, the tax refund. So it's like you never really see it like just from out of nowhere. So from just that little work. So I'm like, wow, okay. So
And how much time would you say? How much time would you say it took of like active effort of yours to get to that first 9,500 or whatever? Because you said 2 weeks to close, but like, what about the active time, like calling, meeting people?
2 months of dedication. 2 months. Like I kept doing it, but I wasn't doing it like every single day because you know. But I was doing it. I was really doing it every day. I wasn't calling 100 people a day, but I was definitely going online, looking at, learning more about the wholesaling and everything. But it took me 2 months to do it. When I got that first deal, like I said, it was excitement. I went to the bank and asked for all cash. Like, hey, can I get my money? And then that day, I went out and gave my mom $500, my brother's $500, my sister's $500, and just gave everybody just like money because it was so. I wanted to be thankful. Like, hey, like I might have found something that could help us succeed in life. I don't know what it is yet. I'm just my first time doing it, but hey, guys, here. So now I'm like, all right, so I made some money. How can I invest this back into learning so I can make more money with the wholesaling? So now it's like I can afford to pay for a subscription service to look for deals and skip trace and do all these other things. So I ended up looking at, I want to say I used PropStream, batch. The guy that asked Flipping, he mentioned batch leads. So I was using that, and because it could do text messages. So I didn't like cold calling and just like get on the phone with sellers, but it's something I had to do in order to get that first deal. And it was worth it for sure, but the text messages are way simpler in my opinion. But also being talking to the seller face to face, hands on it's way better. Like it's more, you can be more vulnerable to them and they can be more vulnerable to you just being on the phone with them. So with that being said, I want to say after that 2 weeks, I didn't end up closing another deal for another month at that time. But after a month, I closed another deal and I made 5K off of that, and then so on and so forth. So after I want to say my third, fourth deal, I came to my dad and my brother and I was like, hey, I want to get an office here because I think I can afford it because, I'm wholesaling now. It's like, it has to do with houses. People started talking about me doing housing now, and they're like thinking that I'm a real estate agent. Now I don't even have my real estate license at the time. But then one day I was selling another property. The owner that I sold one of his properties, I called him back and I was, hey, do you have any other properties you'd like me to sell? Or do you have anything that's available? He's like, yeah, I have like 3 other properties that, I'm willing to sell. I took a look at them. I sold two out of three. One of them, though, I met a gentleman there, and he was like, yeah, I can buy this, cash. And I'm like, how are these people actually buying these deals? Like, it doesn't make sense. So after that, I started looking into investing in real estate. So wholesale, I didn't know wholesale and real estate and investing in real estate were two different things. But I thought investors were just people that had money that could just buy anything. So I got on TikTok again, searching up how to invest in real estate. And that's where Sam pops up. And Sam's talking about you can invest in real estate with no money out of pocket, and you can do this and do that. And he's like, I own over $1 million of real estate. So in my head, I'm like, wow. And then he says he's in St. Charles, Missouri, in St. Peter's. I'm like, wow. How does I've never seen a millionaire in my life. And I thought there were really people that were just ducked off and like they made their money and then they moved to like Florida or something and just like stayed there. I didn't know they were like really here or local. And my whole life I never saw a millionaire. So like for him to be online just saying like he's a millionaire, he lives in St. Louis. I'm like, how can I meet this guy? How can I get in contact with him and like just see how to do it? So then I started taking Sam's content really seriously and like started watching all his TikToks, YouTube, Instagram, and like really try to learn what he was talking about. So then I started reading this book. I read this book called Rich Dad Poor Dad that really changed my whole vision of life about just in wealth itself. And after I finished that book, I want to say getting that book was actually hard, difficult. So when I heard about it, I was like, how do I get this book? I looked online. The Walmarts that were near me didn't have it, but there was a Walmart 45 minutes away that did have it. So I drove 45 minutes away to go grab the book because I at that point I'm like I'm so focused, and if I say I'm gonna do it tomorrow, I might not ever do it. So I'm like, let me just do it today, get it over, get the book, start reading it, and just see, what's all about. And a lot of people keep talking about this book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. So I'm like, all right, let me go take it out. So I went there, bought the book. That same night, I started reading it, and I think I read like 2 chapters that night. And then every day I started reading it after that. So after, I would say in the middle or towards the end of the book, I came to my dad's office again after I already had the office space, but I came to my dad's store again and talked to him. Um, and I told him and my brother was there too. I'm like, hey, I think that our life is going to change forever now. I promise you guys, our life is going to change forever. Like from what I'm learning right now and how the rich are getting richer and creating wealth, I think we're good. We're very good. So he's like, all right, continue learning about this and then come back to us whenever you're ready and you want to take action. So after I read the book and started learning more about the investing side, I'm like, all right, now I think, yeah. So now I'm like, all right, I want to go buy my first property. So I ended up calling a teacher of mine when I was younger. There was a teacher that he was a millionaire too, but I didn't believe him. He was an Islamic teacher. I didn't believe him, but he always had money though, and then he would always have cash. So, but he was also I want to say a therapist. So I just thought he made money from his therapy side, but he owned a lot of real estate. I didn't know that. So I called him and I'm like, hey, I know you own this house over here in South City. Are you interested in selling? He's like, yeah. He's like, I'll sell it to you for 130. I'm like, okay, that sounds fine. Now, I didn't do no numbers now, so I don't even know what the house is worth. But I was gonna wholesale it, but then the lady I was wholesaling it to, I asked her like, what do you think this house is worth? She's like, it's close to probably 180, 200. I'm like, okay, it doesn't. That's a good decent amount. It doesn't need too much work anyway, just cosmetic. So I end up getting in contract with them, but I'm like, hey, I'm going to charge you guys a fee for this, for, just helping out. Because right now, just helping. I didn't put any fees in between because I was trying to help both of them. So they're like, no, we can't do that. We'll probably pay you $200. I'm like, $200 is really not worth my time. But they're like, all right, if you don't want that, then we don't want the property. I'm like, all right, that's fine. So I'm like, all right, don't even worry about it. I'll buy the property, because I'm like, okay, this might be that chance to really know exactly what I'm doing, and just take the risk and actually just do it and see exactly what happens for me. So I ended up going there. I went to the first. I was on a contract, but then Sam has this REI group that happens once a month, and I actually attended it for the first time. And then I see him, and I'm starstruck right now. I'm seeing a celebrity. I don't know what's going on, and I'm watching him talk about how they accumulate all this wealth in real estate, and I'm like, okay, so we need a hard money lender to really get started. How do we find one? And then I'm on the Facebook groups. I see a lot of people post about hard money lenders. So I start calling one here and there, and I actually find one that fits my needs. And most of them, the situation was that they needed 6 months of reserves in your account that was just sitting there. And I'm like, well, I usually keep cash, so I don't have it in the account, but I can deposit it right now, and I can show you that I have the capital. But after most of them said no, and one of them was like, yeah, you'll deposit right now and send us a screenshot, we'll fund the deal for you. So I'm like, all right, that's fine. So I ended up just depositing the money, taking a screenshot, and they're like, yeah, we can fund the deal for you. And then we ended up buying the house, And now it's like, how do you find contractors to actually work on the house? And after finding cheap contractors, I think my brother found them. I want to say we paid them $30,000, and they did most of the work, but then ran off with the rest.
Ugh, the typical horror story when you do rehabs. Yep.
It was like, what? Like, did I lose all this money right now? So now it's like we took a pause. We're like, okay, what can we do now? Because of we just lost most of our money and no work has got done. So I'm still wholesaling, trying to make some capital, and we ended up meeting another gentleman from Home Depot. That's where you can find most contractors, but I'm not gonna say they're trustworthy because most of them will do the same thing. But we met these other contractors. They came in and actually did the work. They finished the work, and we paid them. And then the house actually ended up turning nice. And now it's time to rent. Now it's like, all right, how do I find a tenant? How do I go about this? So at that time, also, I want to say I got my real estate license around that time. And the reason I got my real estate license was because my brother kept saying, hey, if you want to take it seriously, why don't you just go get your license and get it over with? And I did go get that. It was hard. I failed my test like 3 times, but I kept going because I'm like, hey, I gotta get it done. So I put on the MLS, and I want to say it took 2 months to get that property rented. But once we got that tenant signed and got them in there, now it's how do I refinance? Now it's like I'm doing one step at a time, and it seems like everything is just difficult. Like everything's taking long. Usually they say you're in and out 1-2 months. I'm in this deal for like 4 or 5 months now, and it's like, why is it taking so long? And I'm just paying interest only payments. So after a discussion with Sam again, I had to go back to Sam because it's like every avenue I go, they're pulling credits, and my credits keep going lower, and they're not funding the deal. They're not trying to refinance it. So am I not asking the right questions? So I'm like, hey Sam, can I get in contact? Can we sit together and talk about this so you can help me with the refinancing part? And he says, yeah, let me check my schedule. I can get you in this day, and then we can talk about it. Very nice gentleman. I'm like, wow, he's so nice. And just to even sit with me, just to teach me, like, just give me tips on what I need to do right now. So he ends up getting me in there. I talked to him, and he's like, yeah, you need to go to these small local banks, and they're going to help you fund these deals, and you got to ask for a DSCR loan. And I'm like, what is that?
Something new again. Yep.
I've not been asking. I'm just like, can I get a refinance? Can I get a refinance? So it was like, I didn't even know about the DSCR loan. So I ended up going back and actually, I want to say, after our meeting, I started calling other banks and asking for DSCR loans and actually getting one to actually doing it. And I started the refinancing process. Now the property I bought for $130, I was all in for probably $170, and it appraised for like $293, and that was way more than expected. Way more than I expected. So I was happy. I was very happy about that. So once we did that refinance, I'm like, all right, we got this step done. Now what's next? Now how can we grow? What can we do? So I ended up doing the FHA on myself and getting a 4-family at that time also. Now for the FHA, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't live in the unit, but I had a family member stay in the unit and then just rent it everything out. But it worked out for the best. It was only for a year, and then after that, I could put a new tenant in there, and that was cash flowing great. Interest rates were low at that time, so right now I'm making over $1,000 in cash flow from that one unit. It's doing very well. So now it's like, how do I grow? How can I have a team in place? And then Sam had this mentorship that I was like, all right, I hear a lot of people saying that you have to invest in yourself. And, if you're just throwing money out here and not really gaining the knowledge, and, people aren't going to do it for free, as long as you're offering something on the back end, I believe. So I'm like, all right, I'll pay for the Sam's mentorship and check him out. He's in St. Louis, so it's like I can do it because he knows about the St. Louis market already. So I paid for his mentorship, and from there, it just gave so much knowledge that it was like he gives his knowledge out for free already, but it's not in order.
It's different. It's different when you're a part of a mastermind or mentorship group. Yeah.
Everything was on there, so I'm just looking through, watching the videos. I'm taking the whole day just watching, and like nights just watching, just learning. I'm like, wow, like he's treating this as a whole business, and I wasn't treating it as a business, but I was trying to, but I don't know much about businesses. So it's like I was trying to, but nothing, not the way he was saying it. So I'm like, all right, so I need to like go back on everything and like try to reframe my whole business and actually do what he's doing. And then he's like, you gotta have systems and processes in place. So I didn't have much of that. And I was just learning so much around that time. And he's really with the birds side. So I started, okay, so how am I finding my deals and how am I funding them? Who's doing my work? And how am I going to refinance? How am I going to rent it out? All these things. So I ended up going to I ended up finding another property in Florissant, Missouri, and I bought that on the market on MLS. And a lot of people were buying in Florissant, so I was like, let me just give it a shot and go see exactly what's going on over there. And I wanted to grow really quickly, so I bought that property, and then we didn't have good contractors at that time, but we met our now contractor from that one deal. And my brother, he basically was driving by, dropping my aunts off, and then saw that there was these guys working on this project, and went in there, asked them, hey, are you guys doing any other work? Can you guys come take a look at one of our jobs? And they said yes. They came out, they took a look, they gave us a bid, and we're like, all right, we'll give you the job. They did it. They did excellent work. And we're like, all right, we definitely want to stick with you. We want to build a relationship with you guys. We know you guys are looking for jobs all the time, so why not? We should both help each other and we can help grow. So we found our contracts at that time, and now we built a relationship with Hard Money. Now it's like, how do you find private money lenders? How do you all these other things? So we just kept on doing the same thing over and over again, buying properties for a discount, rehabbing them, renting them out, fixing them up.
And how many of these were you doing, like in a month or a year or whatever at this point, just so people can kind of put it in context?
So I want to say at least two or three, but in 2 years I gained over 18 properties.
Nice.
And then my third year now I'm up to like 27 doors. So
congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. But so when I got my real estate license, there was this guy, a gentleman that was at my brokerage, and I only joined the brokerage because his name is Chris. And I don't know if you're familiar with Chris Buys Homes. He was that Chris. He made that big wholesaling company, and he actually sold it off. And I was talking to him at one point, and I'm like, hey, how did you become a millionaire, when you got into real estate? And my whole vision was to become a millionaire. Like, that's all I was working towards, like just getting that $1 million net worth. So I'm like, how did you do it? He's like, did it actually take you 5 years? He's like, no, it actually took me 3. And I'm like, so why do people say 5? But he mentioned like, they're saying 5, but it's up to you. It's how much work you put into it, and how fast you want to go. So I'm like, all right, so since you could do it in 3, I'm gonna try to do less or near that. So that's really what really gave me that drive to really get going. But the first year, it was, like I said, it was hard when I got my first 2 properties. But after my third and fourth, it became way more simple. I got more accurate in things, numbers, learning how to run comps and everything, and actually networking with people. Sam mentions like networking people. The more you network, the more you make more money. And the more hands you shake, the more money you make. So that whole mindset is like meeting the people and talking to them and seeing how they came up and what they were doing just made a lot of sense. And now I want to say in the past 2-3 years now, there's been a lot of trials and errors, but it was for the best. And now I feel like I've got a good team, good relationship with people. I met people that own huge apartment complexes that, definitely try to help me out whenever I whenever I have questions, like mentors, basically. Like it didn't start off like I didn't ask them to be a mentor, but they just ended up being a mentor at some point, just because they loved the hard work that I was putting in. Like, they just saw like how much grind I was willing to put into the work and actually get going. Some people thought, I was going to say I'm going to do this and then stop. That's like, I took it real serious. I'm very dedicated to it.
Yeah, clearly. And it's such an incredible story of yours, Yunis. And congratulations again on all the success. And thank you for making my job as a host here extremely easy, because you kind of touched on all the different, points that we typically like to ask and talk about. But one thing I'm curious to hear from you, because I want to be mindful of your time here and start getting you out of here. But what would you say is your secret sauce that, obviously with the story and the background that you've had, you came, through tremendous hardships, on the brink of death at least once, if not, twice, came back from that, and you never gave up, never stopped, right? What would you say is your secret sauce, I guess, maybe that, made you just continue and never stop and get to where you are today?
You got to have that vision. You got to believe in yourself. You have to have trust in yourself, and you want to see yourself. If you see yourself somewhere, you can do it. So just you having that imagination of you being somewhere high, then you could definitely do it. If you couldn't, you wouldn't have that mindset. I feel like most of my friends that I don't have friends my age right now that are doing what I'm doing. And it breaks my heart, but it's like they're not in the same type of mindset I'm in. And they don't see much of the way. They're always just thinking 9 to 5, 9 to 5, 9 to 5. Where I'm thinking like, how much cash flow can I make every month? Like I'm trying to make $100,000 a month every month. So they're not thinking that type of way. They're just thinking, all right, I'll just work my 9 to 5, buy the little house I can and just go, create my family and just move on from there. And I really think you got to take action. You got to know exactly what you want and really get into details, read books, talk to people. And if you want to create wealth, get around people that, have it. Surround yourself with, like-minded people instead of just, regular friends. Stop partying, stop doing drugs, just focus, like really focus on your inner self and something, change the life of your family and your generation, honestly, and then create generational wealth. So I guess that's something I would say.
Yeah, well, crazy. No, absolutely. And you obviously put it into practice, right? Throughout the stories that you were explaining, all of those items and all of those aspects, so they're traits maybe you put into action. Earlier, you mentioned Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, his book. Do you have another book recommendation maybe that you like to recommend people pick up, or one maybe that has changed your, life?
Okay, so I would say Think and Grow Rich. The Millionaire, let me see. And then The Millionaire Real Estate Investor. Uh, I read this only because, once again, I was in when I got my real estate license, it was with Keller Williams, and then they handed it to me. Honestly, they were like, "Hey, read this," but it's very good. It's very good, and I didn't expect it. I just thought he was going to talk about as a real estate agent, but no, he really talked about some major points in this. And then I also read a book recently, "Buy the American Dream," and that talks about something way different about like just buying businesses and stuff like that, which that's something new I'm trying to get into now. But they got into really amazing details. I feel like people don't talk about this enough, but books is where it's at. Like television is good, entertaining, but like the real knowledge is in these books. And like even growing up, like I didn't like reading books, but it's like, why are these people with money always reading books though? What's in it? Now I see why they're reading it, because there's so much knowledge in there. Like people are really pouring their heart out and like giving you some major knowledge in these books. And now I just love reading books. Like when someone recommends a book, I don't even care what it is about, honestly. But if it's anything that's about me leveling up, or they say like, "Hey, it changed my life," I'm willing to read it because I just want to see exactly what it's going to do for me.
Yeah, they say, what did they say? Readers are leaders, right? Or leaders are readers, or whichever way it goes. How about a piece of software, an app, a tool that you use on a regular basis that helps you kind of achieve success?
Okay, so for my rental side with the birds, I would say Tenant Turner is one of the biggest thing I use, and that usually helps with getting tenants in your rental property. So it let's say you're ready to rent out your property. You can take, once you get your photos, you upload it on there, you put your rent amount. It's basically a self showing for the tenant, so you're not usually there. So I have like, I want to say like five of these boxes, and these are the lock boxes you would put on your door and put the key in here. And whenever a tenant wants to view the property, you send them a link. They fill out their information in there, and then they get their own code. So no other viewer is going to have that same code. And then whenever they view it, yeah, they can, you'll know exactly who went in there, and they can apply. They'll put a link of your application and sends them right there, right to them after they view the property, and they can leave reviews and stuff like that. So that's been a major help in my business. When I got started, it involved me going and meeting with the tenants all the time. Sometimes they wouldn't make it, so it would make me upset. Like I wasted my time coming here and like try to meet you, but you didn't even make it. So this really saved me time by me not even going there. Once the property is ready, I usually have one of my teams just take it down there and put it on the door. and then we're all good.
Awesome recommendation. And last question for you here before I let you go. How can our audience help you, and how do you want them to reach out to you?
So the audience can reach out to me at Yunis, Yunis, the realtor, on TikTok or Instagram. And then, those are probably the best places to really reach me at. And if they have questions, like, I'm ready to help anybody. Honestly, I want to give them exactly, what I've been through, and just give them as much information I can to help them level up in their life also.
Awesome. Well, Yunis, thank you so much for your time, for being vulnerable, I guess, and sharing this incredible story of yours. I look forward to hopefully having you on again in a few months or years and see where you've been. So, because you obviously interesting story and a lot of success and growth. So thank you so much for your time today.
No, thank you.
Well, that was such an incredible episode. Yunis's story is absolutely amazing, from being stabbed, shot, an immigrant, having been kicked out of school, I think he said 3 times, yet still having the grit, the dedication, and the action taking needed to be and find success, to be successful and find success. It was such an incredible story, and hopefully it resonated with all of you. And if you found any value in our content, we'd love your help in spreading the word. If you could do us a favor and share this, episode with someone in your network, your support would mean the world to us, and together we can inspire others to achieve greatness. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you on the next episode of The Gentle Art of Crushing It.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, another episode of The Gentle Art of Crushing It. It was an amazing episode. We know we sure learned a lot, and we hope you did as well. We want to take a second and thank you so much for viewing or listening to this episode. And please just know that we only ask for one favor, and that is to make this life magnificent. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.